While I was expecting to come back and have this episode at some point today, didn't expect it to be this quick after the Josh Giddey news. Talen Horton-Tucker has now officially earned the last roster spot for the Chicago Bulls. Details are still pending on the deal. We're going to talk about all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, and I told you guys when news drops, we drop. We were just live on the channel talking about the report that came out that Josh Giddey wanted $30 million. Well, we're back now talking about THC. He has officially made the Chicago Bulls final roster. Details are still pending on the contract, but this has been reported by multiple sources that he has now made the Bulls' final roster after averaging 13 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, and shooting 40% during the preseason. So this was to be expected. I don't think anybody was really too caught off guard with this. THT earned that final roster spot via his play on the court. And I really do appreciate the fact that, while I was not a THT guy coming in here, I did not expect THT to perform in the manner in which he did. There's something to be said that the Bulls allowed it to just come down to the performance. And THT performed adamantly for the Chicago Bulls. He did exactly what was needed and called for him. And now he's going to add more depth to the bench of a player that when he does get in the game, you pretty much know what THT can bring to the game. He's a solid defender, not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he does get active. He gets some steals. He plays in the passing lanes. And he can a guy that can shoot a little bit and score a little bit for you. So, that's what it comes down to. So now, with that said, with the signing of EJ Liddell to the final two-way contract yesterday, and now THT officially signing to the Chicago Bulls for an actual NBA contract in that Bulls final roster spot, everything's kind of solidified now for the Chicago Bulls roster. We know who's going to be on this team. We know what the roster is going to be. The Bulls still got some rotation things that I think they're going to figure out over the first handful of games this season, but it is now official. THT is now signed to the Chicago Bulls, and he ain't going nowhere. He's going to be here at least for the start of this season, and we'll see. I can't wait till the details of this contract comes out because I'm just interested to see if the Bulls were able to work out anything as far as, any type of non-guarantee, if it's only, partially guaranteed up into the trade deadline, something like that, which we've seen teams do before with kind of these back end of the bench players, which means that if they do move them or they need to waive them, right, to open up a contract spot to facilitate a trade, they can even sign him back when it comes down to it. But this was kind of one of the more straightforward things. It was academic at this point. I think everybody was just waiting for it to be officially announced, so that we can just know that he's done. And at this point, he's locked in now with the Bulls. So, not a bad thing. I think when you want to perform, I don't know what the hell happened there. You want to pay people that perform, and THT performed for you well in the preseason. So, not mad at him getting this deal at all. Brendan L. Jet says, I think if he used right, THC can be our Ben Gordon off the bench. That will help Io, Julian Phillips, and Jalen focus on the roles. I don't know about all that. THC has not been that type of shooter over the course of his career. But like I said, I still don't think THC is going to play a whole lot. I just don't. But, I do think that when you do have to play him, or you have a guy that maybe isn't performing at your way, you need a different look, THC is going to be able to come out there and do his job, right? We saw it coming and deserves it. A lot of Chicago area natives on this 15 plus 2 squad, plus 3. You corrected that. Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, even when you look further into the G League, that as well. So, it's just good. It's good that he's there. It's good that he's doing what he needs to do. And, I'm not mad at having THC. Is not a player that you get mad at having on your roster, right? Like, yeah, he's on the back end of the bench. If he ends up not working out, if he ends up not playing a bunch of minutes, it's not a big deal. Like if your season is not going to hinge, your bench rotation, your bench success is not going to hinge on THT. And that's an interesting position that the Bulls have put themselves in with the number of young players and the mix of veterans that they have on this bench that are all trying to prove themselves. And so, Chris Duarte is still behind on the rotation behind Io. He's still behind Jalen Smith, but just because of positionally. If you still look at how Billy Donovan is trusting him, I still think if Julian Phillips is healthy, Julian Phillips is going to play above him. And we'll see what it means for what Lonzo's playing. The games that Lonzo playing, he's going to be above THT. And that remains like Modest and Dalen Terry and and Torrey Craig and THT to really kind of show what they bring. So, that's what it comes down to. Ben was different. Hey, Ben was special. Ben Gordon was special. I hate how like his career went after he left the Bulls and apparently his personal life after as well. So, it is what it is when it comes down to that. At the start of training camp, I thought Batum would keep his slot. Congrats to THT for outplaying the competition. Exactly. And I thought that as well. Like I looked at THT, I looked at the upside of THT and the upside of Ernalop and what he did over in Europe. And I was like, hey, this guy, like, I hope that Ernalop proves himself. But like I said, can't be mad at somebody who came into your roster and proved himself and earned a spot with you. And that's what THT did, right? So that's what it comes down to. THT kaboom. That is hilarious. That's hilarious. But yeah. So overall, the Bulls make the move that I think a lot of people expected to come from the Chicago Bulls. We now have this solidified in here, and it is what it is when it comes down to it. The Bulls, they got a deep roster, man. You got to give the Chicago Bulls credit. The Chicago Bulls have a deep roster this year. Depth doesn't always mean quality, though, right? But they got a deep roster, and I can't wait to see what this team does, how well they perform, and things like that. And we'll see how it grows and develops, man. This is gonna be a fun, very fun team to watch this year, I think. And despite however many wins or losses that we have, I think this is going to be a very fun team to watch. I think this is going to be a team that likes to play together. I think this is going to be a team that likes that when they get in their offensive bag, oh man, when they get in that special pocket offensively, this Bulls team is going to be a fun offense to watch. I really do believe that. Giovanni says, THT almost brings that calming veteran presence that can get the second team a bucket when it's needed, like reminiscent of what DeMar's presence brought to the squad. I mean, comparing it to DeMar's a bit, right? But I get what you're saying on that. Bulls have a lot of scoring options on this team. Listen, offense is not the thing that we're worried about, right? Not worried about that at all. What we are, the balance that we can have and the different looks that we can throw and the way that we have a nice combination of when we need a half court bucket, we got players that can score in the half court. But man, when this team's getting out running, when they're getting out in transition, when they're naturally getting steals and rebounding the ball well on the defensive side, watch out. When you get this team on a fast break, this is going to be a special team to watch. I really do believe that. And like I said, it's going to be a fun team to watch regardless. Rob says, nice. Yeah, solid. This is the move that needed to be made. Right? This is just the move that needed to be made. So, the Bulls would have had to really done some explaining had THT not made this roster because it's like, what are you looking for? He did everything that you look and that you could want. Everything. So because of that, I'm not mad at the THT signing, man. I hope the THT comes here and he plays well in whatever role that he's given, whatever role that he earns. I hope that he plays well. I hope he executes. I hope he fits in. Can we trust Billy to prop? Oh my God. When do you spend a day without bringing up Billy Donovan's name? Like real talk. People could be like, yeah, Kobe White apparently dropped a double decker in the toilet. And then Winton would be like, if Billy Donovan was a better leader and a head coach, Kobe White wouldn't have dropped that double decker in Zach LaVine's toilet. This all goes back to Billy Donovan's coaching. Just fight him. When you just got to find Billy Donovan to just go ahead and run the fade on him, bro. You just got to get over. Just go ahead and give him the fade. It's just preseason, but those preseason stats are pretty eye-opening. Yeah, for you talking about for THC, yeah, and I mean the Bulls' offensive stats as well through preseason look pretty damn good. Like I said, they really they gave a lot of hope, right? A lot of hope for what they could turn into, man. We'll see. We've seen a lot of potential, so we'll see what that develops into. Stuart, Liddell, Sonogo. I like all three two-ways. Yeah, I like the three two-way players that we have as well. This is why I say yesterday news on Billy would get Winton heated. That's so funny. I don't even know if Winton caught that video before it was time because that was funny. That definitely was a Winton troll job because that was funny as hell. But all right, y'all. Not a lot to talk about here because we don't have the contract details. What up, Haize? I'm not bought in on Acme again yet. I need to see them be more proactive at making in-season upgrades at the deadline, but I must admit they earned a lot of my trust back. Keep in mind, like a lot of teams aren't super active at the deadline. We'll see what they do this year, but I think AK is on the path of maybe turning a few things. Like I said before, even us looking at their draft history, if Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry turn into really solid rotational players this year, you almost got to turn your way on looking on their draft history, right? We already are up on Modest. Ayo Dosunmu's proven himself to be a starting caliber player, which they got in the second round. Julian Phillips is looking like he's ready to really use this season as a launching pad, right? And then Dalen Terry, who's extremely raw. Like I don't look at Dalen as having like starting level upside, but if Dalen turns around as well, like most of AK's draft picks have ended up working out if that's the case, right? And of course, if Modest ends up actually hitting that upside that we all see in Modest, you got to start changing the narrative on that a little bit. And then in what he's done and now pivoting this team as well, yeah, it had me drinking too. That is hilarious. That's funny. TC played desperate in preseason like a man one stop away from China League ball. I mean, hey, and he very well could have been. Very well could have been, right? We've seen players with better careers than THC that can't find NBA roster spots, right? So I'm sure he's happy to land here. He's at home in Chicago as well. It's weird to have him and Io on the same team now, right? Like Illinois would have loved to be able to have that, but it is what it is. I think the Bulls are going to surprise people this year. Hey, we'll see. We'll see. I hope that they do. I hope that they do. Jamal in the building. I haven't seen you in a while, my brother. Says, keep up the good work, Haize. I'm not locked in on what the Bulls have been doing lately. Which young boy has impressed you the most by far? I mean, Julian Phillips. Julian Phillips, until he got hurt, was the best player for the Bulls in preseason. Like Julian Phillips looks like he's really going to use this season as a launching pad. So we'll see. We'll see. Haize, this season turns out to be good, and Zach LaVine is contributing. Do you still trade him? Do me? Are you talking about the front office? I think the front office, if they get a deal on Zach LaVine, they're taking that deal. I think if they get a reasonable deal back where they feel happy with what they're getting back without them having to give up a draft asset or something, I think they still look to move Zach. That's my personal opinion on it. That's my personal view. And Phil, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what they should do, but that is something that I think that they will do. Yo, Malcolm was beige. I may even be darker than Malcolm X. Like, what are we talking about? Beige Malcolm. That's hilarious. All right, y'all. If there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this one up. Iowa is still in the second round. Absolutely. Definitely still in the second round. One major difference I noticed from last year is now that we have a lot of depth at positions of need. I mean, we still don't have a lot of depth at the big, but we do got some depth. And I mean, I guess you can still look at it as depth because, like, even though Billy is probably not going to use Adama significantly, if there is an injury to either Jalen or Vooch, you can bring Adama up, and I think Adama will perform pretty fine. Why does it feel like every time P. Will is having a killer game, he gets hurt? Listen, the conundrum of P. Will. Details. All right, bet. Hayden is on a minimum contract that will pay him $2.4 million and will count against Chicago's cap for 2.07. If it becomes fully guaranteed. For now, he'll earn $13,000 a day. Is there any details on the guaranteed date, though? I'm glad that they made it partially guaranteed. That's smart. Like I said, that gives you some flexibility. If you need to move off THC's deal, it gives you some flexibility. If you need to open a roster spot, right? Because the last thing you want is that to have all of your 15 roster spots guaranteed, because if you do need a team needs to send out an additional player, you have the ability to waive one and open up a roster spot. So I think that's just smart. Don't take that as anything against THT, please. It's just being smart business. So, but yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that deal. Like that deal. That's a real. See, I'm glad that I stayed on. That's a really good deal for THT. I think that's a really good deal for him. So, and like I said, the non-guarantee portion of that isn't against THT. It doesn't mean they don't believe in THT. It just means that they want to make sure that if they need some cap flexibility, some roster spot flexibility, that they maintain that. That's the most important thing there, and it's smart. So, shout out to THT for getting this deal. The fact that THT is making about a third of what Javon Carter is making is wild. Keep in mind that Javon Carter is making 3 times more than Talen Horton-Tucker. Just everybody keep that in mind. So, it is what it is there. I'll take a 14K. Exactly. Take 14K a day. Great pickup. Absolutely. They can waive them till January. So that's a great, because that puts you about a month before the trade deadline. So keep it. So that could be an indicator. So guys, keep in mind, if January 7th is the date If you see Talen Horton-Tucker waived, did the Bulls just randomly wake up one day and waive Talen Horton-Tucker before that January 7th date? That could point to the Bulls are planning on being active at the trade deadline. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as well. So there you go. Does the new league rule apply? Anybody on the roster is available to be dealt in December 5th? Yes, anybody can be dealt December 15th. But no, well, yes and no. You still got to be 30 days removed from your deal, which he still will be 30 days removed from his deal. So yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But all right, y'all, get that update. Glad we got the full contract details as well before we got up out of here. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And thanks to you guys. And make sure you guys are following the show. See red, don't be red. Love you guys. Go Bulls. Peace, y'all.